we're actually jumping into a topic for the first time. Sean, I'm pretty excited about this because I just got fired today, and I'm hoping to land something with you in SoCal Industrial.
Buddy,
how to get hired in commercial real estate.
How to get hired, yeah. And yes, you're automatically hired. Yeah, we need you on the team. Sorry, we don't pay anything, and it's going to be 5 years of misery, but you should come do it.
I freaking love it, and my family will love it. Thank you for the opportunity. Sign me up, baby.
Let's go. Can you imagine if this whole podcast thing was just for that purpose?
Dude, it'd be fun to work together, sort of. No, I'm joking about
I'm a terrible
being
boss.
Fired, but that's not true.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. All things today we're talking about bosses, how to think about them, how to think about your entry into this business. I'm going to ask you lots of questions because I'll just be honest for our viewers. You've simply got more experience. And I want to say this, and I joke around a lot, but I really do value that 20 plus years of experience in the industry.
Yeah.
So, this is something that people should really listen to.
Well, I get a lot of phone calls and messages from people trying to get hired.
Okay.
And so after, let's just say, the last 5 years of doing that, my advice has been refined in what I give them. And now I basically give out almost all the same advice. And I couldn't tell you how much of it gets followed. But I would say what I tell people is this is the guaranteed way of getting hired into the commercial real estate brokerage industry. It's
So you say guaranteed.
Yeah. Now, I don't know who's guaranteeing it. I'm certainly not, but I just cannot I cannot even imagine how you couldn't get hired if you followed this game plan. It seems impossible.
So give me the game plan. You want to just jump right in? Do you have steps?
I don't. So this is not, I don't have it written out. I don't have it formulated, but it is formulated. But there's a couple key pieces. Getting hired into commercial real estate, it's not easy. I don't know, your experience. Typically at the company I work for, it's a long process. And it's a lot of trying to meet with people, trying to network your way into the industry. I think the first thing though is when I'm talking with folks that are trying to get hired, I ask why do you want to even do it? Right? It's a decent question to start with. Why do you want to be a commercial real estate broker? And I think it's helpful if people trying to get hired have a good sense of the reality of what this job is on getting hired into this business and what it entails. And two things that people always say. I mean, what do you think the two things are of why people want to be in this industry?
To make as much money as possible, as quickly as possible.
Unlimited income potential.
To become stupidly filthy rich on their own investments. Because they're thinking brokerage is a window into investing, right?
Yeah. I think those are probably the same thing, unlimited income potential. I hear that a lot. And
by the way, I'm writing some stuff down because I'm going to respond back to you in some cases as sort of thinking through someone asking this question. Okay. And as you say this, I'm going to say well, Sean, what about this or whatever if I was new and thinking this way. But I like what you said about defining reality of the business because I don't think people know the reality of the business.
Yeah. And I don't want to go too far off topic, but there's a real reason why you want to understand that and then convey to the people you're meeting with that you understand that. And we'll get into that. But the second thing I hear is I want all the time freedom, right? I want to be my own boss. Okay. Be my own boss and unlimited income potential.
Yes.
By far and away, those are the two things. So, I mean, it's just interesting. So I think a reality check on both of those. Yes, unlimited income potential, but that's one side of the pendulum. The other side is you just don't make any money. You don't, you come into this business, you're not collecting a salary and it's years of grinding for no money. and potentially not making a lot of money. There's a lot of people that can't make it past like 2 or 3 years in. And so those folks,
Right.
2, 3, 4 years in, ask them how their unlimited income potential journey was. I mean, it's, there's a significant risk to that part of it.
Well, and especially now with the herd thinned out, right? I mean, you've got a Kyle Matthews, CEO of Matthews, saying the other day in a tweet, 20 to 30% of commercial real estate brokers have quit since this last sort of slowdown in the market. And did I tell you this? I even replied under his tweet and said, like, I believe this. It sounds right. What stats are these or whatever? And they actually follow the national brokerages who report their numbers of brokers. They actually follow that. And it was truly down 20, 30%. So some of it's anecdotal. Some of it's actually data driven that people just simply leave because there's not a ton of transactions happening or weren't,
Yeah.
So,
I think last point on the unlimited income is, I think when people show up trying to get hired into this business and then they meet with a manager or a senior broker and say that right off the bat, the downside in that is that me, as the person who would hire you, I would think you might not have a accurate grasp on the reality of what this business is. And therefore, there may be a risk that you don't make it.
Right.
Right. So you got to understand the downside of that unlimited income potential. And then on the other side of be my own boss, it's true, but it's like, yes. And the downside of that is, okay, you don't have a boss, you have 20 or 30 at a time. Every client you have that hires you is your boss. So yeah, it's not like your boss can make you stay till 7 or 8 p.m. It's that every client needs to be responded to right away, and you'll find that you don't have enough time in the day. So it's there's like no free lunch. I mean, these are some benefits, but I find that after 20 years of doing this, especially the no boss thing, never really played out the way I thought it would. I'm my own worst boss, and then I've got a bunch of other people to answer to.
So what you're saying is, so correct me if I'm wrong, so I'm thinking about the listener, maybe some of the hundreds of people that DM us and the tens of people that DM me and say, I want to get into the business. What do I think? What do I do? Even literally yesterday, a gentleman named Brian who wants to edit my videos. Thank God. Maybe he's an angel from heaven who wants to help me with editing. But he's like, I want to do this because I want to get into the business. You're saying for those types of people, the best thing you can do out of the gate is define reality. And the reality is, if you're thinking this is a cakewalk into time freedom and unlimited income, it's just simply not. It's simply not true.
Yes. And the reason why it's important that you understand that is because, okay, so let's say I was hiring someone for the team. A guy or gal comes along and says, hey, I want to work on your team, and are you hiring? And you have to really understand the concept of the value exchange that exists between a broker who's established and someone trying to get into brokerage. Like, you come and you work for a broker. Let's say you're going to work on my team. You're going to be immediately exposed to deal flow, clients, processes. You'll sit right next to me. You'll hear everything I do. I'll take you to meetings. I will literally teach you, or just by proximity of being near me, you will learn everything you need to know to make millions of dollars in brokerage over a career. And in our company, you don't just start out working for free. You get paid a salary. So and I'm going to pay your salary. Okay. That's the value that you get.
Where do I sign?
You get paid to learn how to develop a skill in a business to potentially be wealthy.
Wow. Okay.
There's a value exchange here. So you need, as the person trying to get that, you need to be thinking like, well, what does the senior person get out of that? And frame the way you approach getting hired with that in mind. And knowing that every time a broker hires a new salesperson, there's a lot of risk there. I have to invest time and money. And usually I won't know until you're about 3 years in if you can even hack it in this business. And a lot of people can't. And they leave after 3 years.
Right.
So now I've invested time.
Yep.
I've paid in. I've invested, and then people leave, and I have zero return on my investment. And that sucks.
That does suck.
You know, on our team, we bring people on because we want to bring them into the team and eventually transition the team over to them. Like, I'm not going to be doing this forever, right? We bring in partners that grow them up into the business, and then as they get established, and you know, we'll transition things over. So that's a lot of value given. And so think about what you as the person who's trying to get hired can give in exchange for that value. And you can always give, number one, energy. You come in with energy every day. That's almost the only thing you have to offer in the beginning is like a new, fresh energy. You can come and bring loyalty and not leave after 3 years. I mean, the worst thing is like you leave to go get a different job in the industry, or you go to a different brokerage company. I mean, that just sucks. Sucks. Energy, loyalty, the right expectations, and just you have to work your ass off. Bottom line.
See, so I'm loving this. There are people eating this up right now, and I'm loving it. So I love define reality. I love thinking about what you do with your energy. So again, just to define, you got to listen to Sean in this case. He's 20 years in, or plus. I'm 6 years in, and I've only hired interns, not specific agents like you are bringing people onto your team. I have trained people. I've trained basically 2 people now, and they're doing great. But with interns, you know, that's kind of what I'm comparing this to a little bit. And some of the advice I give people is, back to your comment, what do you do with that energy? Make yourself indispensable. And you can actually make yourself indispensable with older agents who are making millions a year, have significantly more experience than you, by helping prop up their business. Doing some stuff, call it grunt work, fine, right? Doing some data work, some door knocking work, some spreadsheet work that makes you indispensable. Like, did you know, here's 20, you know, you're talking about this building. Do you know about these 20 people that could be called now that might buy this building? You know, are these people in your database? I sourced them. I found them. You know, there's literally, if you can make good lists in this business, there's almost no cap to how much money you make. It's insane.
No cap, as the kids say. Yeah, the energy. Listen, the biggest thing with the energy is, dang it, don't make me have to motivate you to pick up the phone. If you show up and you're working in this industry and you're brand new and your senior person has to be the one motivating you and driving you to do that, that is such negative value added. I can't even explain it.
Yes.
Primary job when you come in is to learn sales. I mean, you learn to pick up the phone and get in front of people. And I'd say the most challenging new hires we've had on our team have been the ones where we've had to be on them with their numbers and just getting after it more. Just for whatever reason, get in your head that your first year in the business, you got to make 100 calls a day. You just get that in your head and come in with that expectation. And don't have the person that hired you and is paying you and is training you to be wealthy have to be the person that also motivates you. No, you bring the energy. I get a significant lift when somebody new is on our team and they just bring an energy. Like they're making things happen. Because 20 years of doing deals, and I'll probably have another 20 more ahead of me, it's like, you know, it gets a little monotonous, and you want somebody to come in with fresh energy and fresh eyes to see the market new. I look at the market. I know everything that's happening in the market. And that's great, but it's also a downside. I've got tons of assumptions, right? Somebody comes in
That's
new
right.
and they've got fresh eyes and everything's an opportunity and it's great. Like that's what you got to bring.
Yeah, I have so benefited from newer agents on my team calling people that I've given up on.
Yeah.
And getting traction or making something happen. And it's like, why did I give up on them? Because they have another broker, or they've said no a couple times, or it's just one of those assets that's like, it's just unsellable, which we all know those types of things. And then guess what? You have someone come in who's dumb enough to pick up the phone and call that person. They're naive enough to be bold. And then before you know it, something magic happens, and it's like, wow, thank you. That type of energy.
Such a gift to be dumb enough to just pick up the phone. Like that is a gift. Yes. And you got to go with it.
What I hear you saying is your courage in the business, like your literal courage, which I don't throw that word around lightly, but it's courage to call strangers and create momentum that can provide energy that you can't even imagine to veterans, right? You come in thinking like, these people I'm working with are 20 years in, I can't touch them. And it's like, no, your boldness actually will energize the entire team and grow the entire culture.
Oh yeah, and part of that value exchange is also, hey, to be sure you're there to find deals.
Right.
You're supposed to find deals to bring to the team, whether you're marketing a team listing or just going after green business. You want to find deals. Now, I think people coming in and brokers that are just a couple of years in overemphasize that part of it and how important that they think it is to the team. I could tell you, as being on the other side of it, I will make more money finding my own deals than I will helping you win and close the deals that you dig up. But it's important for you to do that so you can learn the business, right? It's a bad business model if I'm going to go service and be the transaction manager for a bunch of deals that a first year in guy or gal digs up. It's not a good, it's much more profitable for me to spend time targeting 5 accounts, winning those accounts and working on those than it is for me to teach you through the process of getting your starter deals, if you will, of people new in the market. So don't overplay that. But yes, you have to find business. That's part of what you bring to the table.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Another defined reality expectation. I'm curious on your thoughts on this, because one thing I see people not prepared for is you are, in a sense, starting your own business, right? And that's coupled with becoming a commercial real estate expert in a certain field or what have you, right? Alongside that, it's not just sales. Like, you're also thinking about, and this, granted, is in conjunction with the team that's in place, be it marketing, management, accounting, or whatever. But you're your own media company. You are controlling your own business's private expenses or whatever you're doing, whatever you're investing in, the CRM you're using. Like, people come in ready for a job, and it's not just a job. Correct. And there are some of us out there that are independent contractors. Some commercial brokers out there are employees technically. Some are independent contractors. And, regardless, you're thinking about the whole business, not just phone calls. And sometimes that, I don't think people are expecting that.
Yes. And I think it takes a long time for minds to expand and realize all that. There's only so much I just think of myself in the beginning. I barely had even a concept for what we actually did for clients. I just knew I had to get in front of them and have them agree to meet with us because we could help them with their lease or something like that. As you go along, your concept for what this whole thing is will grow. And that's just part of the process.
So, Sean, what I'm thinking back to your early, let's say your first 3 years. What are the quintessential experiences you had in your first 3 years, whether they came from you or outside of you, that put you in this seat 20 plus years later? Successful, hosting a star-studded podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like how to do your first 5 years well is probably, well, maybe that's our next podcast actually.
Sure.
I think the bedrock of all that is your ability to pick up the phone, truly, and not quit at the numbers game. By the way, it's hard to get hired into commercial real estate brokerage. People may have noticed. Once you're a broker, your full-time job is to get hired. It's like you're signing up, you're trying to get hired for a never-ending job interview. It's like all you and I do on a daily basis is meet with clients trying to get hired. It's the same concept as trying to get hired into the industry. There's a reason it's hard to get hired in, because it's hard to get hired once you're in here. So it's all the same thing. I do think, again, expectation setting is big in the beginning, and then how do you get hired, right? I think there's two things people could do. One, you probably want to have a lot of face-to-face coffee meetings with people in the industry. I do a lot of these. Find somebody, ask them to coffee, and have it go like this. Hey, and don't say pick your brain. I hate that phrase. Hey, I see you in the industry. I'm new, trying to figure it out, and I would love 15 minutes of your time. Can I buy you a cup of coffee or stop by your office and say hi? Keep the ask pretty reasonable, and I don't think you're going to find many people in the industry that will say no to you. And your goal at the end of that, don't go in and ask basic questions like, so what is commercial real estate? You got to figure that out ahead of time. You got to know what it is, and don't say, well, what do you guys do? You should know what I do. Like, and the other people you meet with, know what they do, know what their business is. It's publicly available information on the internet. Just look them up and get a basic understanding of what you do, because it's tough for people to spend time just to educate from get to 0 to 1 on a knowledge basis for this industry. So then show up prepared, knowing what they do. Your whole goal is, hey, do you have any words of wisdom for me? Is one. Two, is there anybody you could direct me to that would be good for me to reach out to have another coffee? You want to end every 15-minute meeting that way with the name of somebody else you're going to reach out to. And then you call that person. So-and-so said we should get together. I'm new, trying to get hired into this industry. I totally value and respect your time. Wanted to see if you could share 15 minutes with me. I'm happy to bring you a coffee. We can meet at your office. Just want to make it easy for you. People will not say no to those meetings. And what happens is, if you do 20, 30, 40 of those, which you could easily do in the next quarter, do 20, 30, 40, 50 of them. And there's just something that happens. It goes into the psychology of selling, right? Oh, they know this person and this person and this person and this manager at this company and this, like, you kind of become a safer bet of somebody that can be hired. So that is a really important thing to do. So that's one. The second is start making cold calls right now.
Wow.
Okay. You do not work in real estate. You're trying to get hired in. You might not even have a license. Check your local state licensing laws. Just start making cold calls right now. And so what does that look like? You can print out a brochure for anybody that works in the market, an office leasing guy, industrial gal selling buildings, whatever it is. Print out their flyers and start knocking on doors or picking up the phone for the businesses around it. And if you get a lead, call the listing agent up and let them know about it. Yeah.
This is bold.
I said it. It's bold.
I love it. Okay. So cold call beforehand. I mean, you go on the offense as soon as you understand what the offense means in this business, you go on the offense. Is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, because think about, again, the value exchange. Think about the risk of anybody hiring you. The risk is they're going to have to hire you and spend 2 or 3 years paying you and training you before they even know if you have what it takes.
Right.
Why not take that concern off the table?
Love it.
Hey, I know what it takes. I'm already doing it. I mean, hell, I made 300 calls last week in between, doing Uber and whatever else you're doing for money. Yeah.
Yes.
It 100%. Is compelling. It's compelling. I promise, if you are making cold calls, if you're somewhat bright and reasonable and present well, and you're networking your way into this industry by meeting with 30 or 40 people, unless you've got some major baggage that you don't have the self-awareness to see, it's impossible not to get hired. It doesn't even matter if there's job openings for it. I mean, we hired somebody on our team who was doing this. It was compelling. It was like, you're trying to get hired and you're making 100 calls a day. You don't even have a license. You don't work for a company. I mean, it's mind-blowing. It was compelling.
Yeah. See, I didn't get it when you first said it, if I'm honest. And I think it's because I'm a little, maybe slightly dumb. Like when you said it, I was kind of shocked and thinking like immediately about rules and stuff. I'm not really I wouldn't say I'm like a rule follower per se, but I was kind of like, licensing, whatever. But now I get it. Because if I sit down with you and I say, hey, here's my call log. Like I've read your LinkedIn. I know that you value calls in a huge way. Here's my log from last week. And you're like, I'm sorry, you made 30 calls a day?
Yeah.
To businesses?
And you tracked it? And
you played 2 rounds of cold call golf every day last week and you're shooting in the 80s? Like you're so much far ahead of, even someone with here's the other thing you could do to get hired. You just have a rich uncle with a ton of property, like hundreds of millions of property.
That is the primary path. Yeah. That would be
right.
That would be excellent. I didn't have that. I don't know if you did.
Yeah. Kinda, from the standpoint of, I'll just throw that piece of my story out there. My best friend bought the SVN franchise that, we work at currently. So I didn't know commercial coming in. It was more of a connection. And here's what I would say about that though. I'm curious to know about your thoughts on this. So sure, I was lucky to be connected to a business that has a high barrier of entry. But what I'm most proud of is what I've done with that connection, right? Like, okay, so my way in was because I had a friend that basically said like, hey, if you would, you're a very hard worker and I think you're great at sales and I trust you and I want to build this with you. Okay. But then what do you do with that opportunity? Are you going to say like, well, then give me stuff, right? Come in and I'm going to be a consumer in this culture, in this office. And I want you to, give me only the hottest leads and only the best leads or whatever. No way. I mean, you come in and you build from scratch, you add to the value that's around you and you add to the culture, right? Like one of the biggest surprises to me about this business is how important the office culture is to somebody's career. And ultimately why I believe people leave is not necessarily money related. It's culture related and support related. And you can actually contribute to generosity in your office. You can contribute to courage in your office. You can contribute to enthusiasm and fun in your office and take a grueling cold call job and make it into something that is a journey. I'm really, this, I'm very passionate about that. Like there are people that look at this like the gridiron and I don't. I think it can be a wonderfully rewarding, joyful, relational adventure. And I love project-based work. So that's the other thing I'd say if you're listening to this, considering it, if your mind works in projects, I'm going to start something. I'm going to work really hard on it. It's going to finish. And then we're going to move on to the next thing, which is naturally how my mind works. It has combined with real estate in this perfect marriage just for my personality. So if you love project-based work and you're in a job interview, tell people that and give them examples of that, right? I want to go back to something you said when you said research the company, Sean. another little tidbit I've told people, sign up for their email newsletters. Because guess what? Everybody you're going to meet with, if they're worth their weight in this industry, they're going to be probably publishing their transactions. Their close. It's likely you can get on a list and see sort of deal to deal the action that's happening, which is very smart. So you can follow it. You can see what's happening, what neighborhoods are hot. You can feel the momentum, which is really great. And then the other note I meant to write down is but right before I started meeting with people, I read the book Confessions of a Real Estate Entrepreneur. And it's by James Randall. It's this book out there. It's very good. He's a real estate entrepreneur, attorney, investor, broker. He's done it all. It's anecdotal. He's sitting in his office one day and a check shows up with $100,000 referral. He calls the guy. He's like, what is this from? And he's like, 5 years ago, you mentioned to this law firm that they should go in my building. And 5 years later they did. And I owe you 20% of this deal. And he's like, this is crazy, right? I mean, there's stories in there like that. There's also bad, more disheartening stories. But I put all of the terminology, relationships, goals, and I extracted all of that out of that book, even though I didn't understand it. Like I understood a cash on cash return mathematically, but I couldn't feel it, right? Yeah. But I put it all in my mind before I started to meet with people. So do your research, read, expose yourself to those subjects, and you'll be that much more in the conversation.
It's completely, there's no barriers to knowledge in anything right now with the internet, YouTube, that book, this podcast. I mean, if you set your sights on getting hired, you should show up so prepared. I've got people that I've talked to that just start out like, so what is it like? What do you do? Like, what is this job? And I'm like, listen, sir, please figure it out. Like, I'm happy to help if you want to get hired into this business. I will meet with you and guide you, but I can't start at the very beginning, right. of what is real estate? What is a building? Like, just show up with some knowledge. It shows that you 100%. Value the time of the person you're meeting with. And that's an important thing.
Okay, Sean, I love it. You define reality. We're talking breaking some myths of time, freedom, and unlimited potential. Then we're talking about going the offensive, understand that there's value being given to you. Be thankful, use that value to add value back, understand the exchange, which I love that you said. Then you went practical, right? Have coffee with these people, understanding all that. Sit down with them. Don't say pick your brain, but sit down with them to say, what words of wisdom do you have for me? Who should I meet with in the industry? Any final thoughts on, so you're telling me if I did all that, I'd be guaranteed a job pretty much?
If you did that until you didn't stop? Yes.
I would get a job. I agree with you.
Yeah. Oh, get a license
final thoughts
along the way. Get licensed while you're doing that.
Any final thoughts beyond that meeting with someone? Or do you think that pretty much wraps it up? That's a guaranteed hired if you did that until you got a chance.
And you started cold calling. Yes.
And you started cold calling. I forgot the most important part.
Yeah.
But I did it on purpose.
Oh. Uh-oh.
So that listeners would.
There you go. You're so far ahead of me, and
That's right.
I appreciate that.
That's right.
That's it.
And here's the
guaranteed way. Get hired.